The more experienced you are at something, the worse you get at predicting how long it takes. A surgeon who's performed a procedure 1,000 times will underestimate it just as badly as someone doing it for the first time. And the reason why will completely change how you see your own judgment. The explanation comes down to one powerful mechanism, and once you see it, you will notice it everywhere in your own life, starting today. Let me start with a definition. The planning fallacy is a cognitive bias where you systematically underestimate how long a task will take, even when you have data telling you otherwise. You say, "I'll be ready in 10 minutes," and it takes 30. You estimate a project will take 2 weeks, and it takes 4. You think you can write that email in 5 minutes, and 20 minutes pass. This isn't about being disorganized. It's not about laziness, and it's definitely not about stupidity. In fact, planning fallacy hits smart, accomplished people the hardest. It's a feature of how your brain works, not a bug in your character. Here's what happens inside your mind. When you estimate how long something will take, your brain naturally focuses on the happy path. It imagines the task going smoothly, no interruptions, no complications, no unexpected obstacles. You picture yourself working efficiently, and your estimate comes out confident and clean. But real life isn't the happy path. In 1979, psychologist Daniel Kahneman and his team conducted a study that proved this. They asked high school students to estimate how long it would take them to complete a project. On average, students predicted it would take 33 days. The actual average? 56 days. That's nearly double. And here's the kicker. Even when they told students about past projects that took twice as long as expected, the students still underestimated their current project by the same amount. The past data didn't help. It didn't even slow them down. But what makes this study so uncomfortable is this. The students weren't lazy or careless. They were conscientious high achievers, and they still got it spectacularly wrong. Let me give you some real-world examples so you can see this in your own life. Example 1. Software development. In 2003, a meta-analysis by Angelica Witchell looked at 66 software projects. The average project overran its estimate by 45%. Some ran over by 200%. The software engineers weren't novices. Many had 10, 15, even 20 years of experience. Yet they underestimated consistently. Why? Because when you're estimating, you're not thinking about the bugs you haven't found yet. You're not budgeting for the meetings that will slow you down. You're not accounting for the dependencies on other teams. Your brain skips all of that and shows you the best case scenario. Example 2. Home renovations. Think about the last time you renovated a kitchen or bathroom. The contractor says 6 weeks. 3 months later, you're still living in chaos. This happens because when the estimate was made, nobody was thinking about the hidden water damage behind the walls. Nobody predicted the supply chain delay. Nobody factored in the electrician being sick for a week. The estimate was built on a world where everything goes right. That world doesn't exist. Example 3. Your morning commute. You know how long it takes to get to work. You've driven it hundreds of times. But when you have an important meeting, you still underestimate and arrive stressed. You think it usually takes 25 minutes without remembering that yesterday it took 35 because there was an accident. Your brain defaults to the typical case, not the realistic case. Example 4. Writing and creative work. If you've ever written an essay, a blog post, or a book proposal, you know this trap intimately. You think you'll write 2,000 words in 2 hours. What actually happens? You spend 30 minutes staring at the blank screen. You write 400 words and hate them, so you delete and rewrite. You research one reference and end up reading for an hour. You get interrupted 3 times. 4 hours pass and you have 800 words. But next time you'll estimate 2 hours again. Example 5. Learning new skills. You decide to learn Python. I'll get through this tutorial in a weekend, you say. But coding requires testing, debugging, looking up errors, and understanding why things don't work the way you expected. A weekend becomes 3 weekends. We are almost there, and the explanation changes everything about how you see your own reliability. Here's the core mechanism. In 2011, psychologist Roger Buehler ran another famous study. He had people estimate how long various tasks would take. Then he had them imagine the task actually happening, step by step, in vivid detail. When people imagined the process realistically, their estimates improved slightly, but not dramatically. Why? Because even when you try to imagine the real process, your brain still skips the obstacles. It still imagines things working out. You imagine typing, not the false starts. You imagine installing, not the error messages. Your brain does this because it's efficient. Remembering every problem that could happen would be paralyzing. So it strips those details away and shows you a highlight reel. That highlight reel becomes your estimate, and then reality happens. But here is the part nobody talks about. The reason experienced people underestimate just as badly as beginners is because experience teaches you how to execute, not how to estimate. Your brain uses your past success to make you overconfident, not to make you accurate. So if planning fallacy gets worse with experience, not better, what can you actually do about it? The first technique is the reference class forecast. Instead of estimating your specific task, ask yourself, what similar projects have I done? How long did they actually take? Don't guess. Look at your calendar or your notes. Find 3 comparable projects. Take the average or the slowest time. Use that number as your baseline. This works because you're borrowing data from reality, not guessing from imagination. The second technique is time padding. Add 50% to whatever you estimate. If you think something takes an hour, schedule 90 minutes. If you think it takes a day, schedule a day and a half. This sounds extreme until you start tracking your actual times versus your estimates. Then you realize 50% padding is often conservative. The third technique is breaking tasks into tiny pieces. Instead of estimating write report, which takes a vague amount of time, estimate outline sections, write introduction, write body paragraphs, edit and proofread. Smaller tasks are easier to estimate because your brain has less room to skip details. The fourth technique is accountability. Tell someone else your estimate. Write it down. Take a photo of it. The moment you make your prediction public or permanent, your brain tries harder to be accurate. You can't quietly revise the estimate in your memory if it's written down. And the fifth technique is what researchers call prospective hindsight. Imagine that you completed the task on time and it went perfectly. Now imagine it's a few days later and it took twice as long as expected. What went wrong? Write down 3 things that derailed you. Then add those potential delays into your estimate. You're not predicting the future perfectly, but you're making the happy path less happy, and that gets you closer to reality. The planning fallacy won't go away. It's baked into how your brain prioritizes information. But knowing it exists changes how you plan. You become skeptical of your own intuition. You lean on data instead, and you start building in buffers automatically. You become the person who's actually on time, not the person who's always apologizing. So the planning fallacy isn't a flaw in smart people. It's a feature of how all brains work. Your experience teaches you to execute better, not to estimate better. And that same mechanism explains something even darker about why we misjudge our own abilities in almost every area of life. Coming soon. If this rewired how you think about your own judgment, subscribe for more psychology that actually explains your behavior.